Alright, normally this is the time when a Y staff comes up here and talks about how much the person in the position of governor has grown over the past several years. Maybe how we saw them at their first Y conference and they were just a scary little person, maybe a middle schooler, and we saw them grow through all their middle school KWAs and KUNAs and LTCs and go for it. But for Macy Early, that's not the speech that I'm able to give today, because the first time I met Macy Early, I was blown away. She started up here. And that's also because she started a little later than probably a lot of you. She didn't start when she was really young in middle school. She didn't start until just a couple of years ago. And then she was lieutenant governor, and that was the first time I got to interact with her one-on-one. And what I wanted to say about Macy is, if this were anyone else, you just might not believe that this person exists. Because I try and explain my job to people, and I try and explain the leadership that I have the pleasure to work with, and I try and explain Macy to them. And most of the people, whenever I tell them I work with 1,000 plus teenagers on a daily basis, their immediate reaction is, ooh, better you than me. And I say, okay, if that's how you feel about it, I would rather. Because I'm very, very honored to get to work with all of you. And when I explain to people Macy, a lot of times they say to me, okay, but that's just what she's showing you. You're the adult, so she's probably just trying to fill this role. It's probably kind of fake. And I even had a couple moments with Macy. I was like, she's not really serious. She's not really psyched about moving chairs from one room to another in a school down in Mississippi. But then I realized she wasn't kidding. She is honestly and genuinely pleased to serve other people and to make their lives better. Now, this is by no means to say that Macy Early is a perfect person. And she will be the first person to tell you that. But she knows that. And she is constantly in search of knowledge and other people's opinions. She doesn't have a stance and say, this is right, and I'm going to stand by it, and no one can change my mind. She says, this is what I have learned through my experience, but if you have a different story to tell me, I want to hear it. And I want to know your story. I don't know about you guys, but when I speak off the cuff, I'm great. When I write notes down, that's just pointless. But what I want to say is, Macy, the first thing that she's going to do when she gets up here is she's going to say she can't take any credit for anything that I've said. That it's the Y staff, that it's her advisors, that it's her friends, her parents, that it's you as a conference and teenagers in general. And that, she's right. She would not be in this place where she is right now if it weren't for every single one of you. Maybe not individually, maybe you haven't had a chance to speak with her directly, but because you are here as a collective, that is why she is here. And I have met her parents, and they deserve a lot of the credit for who this young woman is. And the Y staff that I have the honor of working with, I like to think that we can take a little bit of credit ourselves. And if at the end of the day, I get to hang my hat on any tiny piece of what any of you, but specifically this young woman, brings to this world, I consider myself a very, very accomplished person. Without further ado, for the last time, your governor, Macy Early.
Thank you. And thank you to Christina. She is so right. The only reason this conference happens and the only reason that KYA has helped me and the Y conferences have helped me to develop into the person I am is because along each step of the way, there have been people around me supporting me and influencing me, just as you have people around you supporting you and influencing you. And I cannot express more gratitude to you or to them. And I know that I would not be standing up here, I would not have a future ahead of me, just like you wouldn't have a future ahead of you if you didn't have those support forces there for you. So I'm not typically an emotional person, and so I'm trying to recenter myself, but I do have some thoughts prepared to share with you, and I think I'm at a place where I can do that. So, Here, I hope, is a wrap or culmination on what we, the officer team, are trying to present to you over this conference. And it begins with a quote by Robert Kennedy. This world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind. A temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. And those words, first spoken by Bobby Kennedy in 1966, ring at least twice as true now as they did then. Worldwide, more than 60 million girls are denied access to education. Every 20 seconds, a child dies of a water-related illness. Millions suffer through conflict, infection, malnutrition. More than half of the world's population lives off of less than $2 per day. Frankly, the odds are stacked against us. But delegates, the distance to our goals must not prevent us from striving for them. It should invigorate us. What do you hope for, delegates? And what are you going to do about it? Delegates, you are never too young to act. You are never too young, or too old, or too rich, or too poor, or in many of your cases, too busy to take action in the direction of your beliefs. And one young person, a graduate of this very same program, clearly exemplifies everything I hope our generation to become. This young man began his Y journey upon attending his 7th grade KYA. The very next month, he attended the Go For It conference and spent the following 5 years as a familiar face in the Y family, a familiar face in my Y family, recently serving as captain of Y Corps Service to the South. Now a freshman at Centra, this young man serves on the Kentucky Heartwood Board of Directors and actively participates in a number of initiatives that improve our ecological and social environment. A laundry list of involvement and achievements can never sum up the impact of this young man, and he would never appreciate one. His pure idealism, coupled with ardent condemnation of anything harmful or selfish, continues to inspire me. In fact, as I was writing this little blurb, I gave him a call to ask him if there was anything he felt I had to include in this presentation this morning. And he told me that the spiel about him, that ought to be me expressing how awesome he is to all of you, that it shouldn't be about him, it should be about the why. So, he says the why motivated him to take action on his beliefs, teaching him that every individual has the latent potential to explode change all over this Commonwealth. But more than his many accomplishments and involvements, this person lives intentionally, choosing to approach each day through the lens of service. Because of his part in the journey to build a generation of action, I am proud to award my Kentucky Colonel to my dear friend and role model, Michael Andrew Fleck. But Michael simply joins the long list of young people who have changed our world. As in that same speech, Bobby Kennedy observed, a young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the ends of the earth, and a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. It was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and the 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson who penned the words, "All men are created equal." Delegates. Inaction is the only thing that stands between you and everything you can become. To act, to move, to do is the only logical pathway for you. Do not allow yourself to feel daunted by the size of our task, but instead remember the closing words of that Kennedy speech. Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different sources of energy and daring, these tiny ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Delegates, I do not ask you to move mountains. I do not ask you to take the weight of the world's problems on your shoulders. I do not ask you to cure cancer, solve hunger, or end war. I ask you to move. And by so moving, by taking action, you will inevitably, undeniably, and irrevocably change our world. So won't you join me in building a generation founded on beliefs, defined by action, and determined to create a future that gives shape to the achievements of our past. It has been an honor serving you as governor, and I hope that the message shared throughout this weekend has been a fraction, has made a fraction of the change in your life as you have each made on mine. Thank you, and God bless you.